Oi, what's up? It's Minted, and today I have another kind of discussion video that I wanted to talk about Overwatch 2 because recently we got a whole bunch of news pretty much talking about PvP, and the biggest resounding thing that people took away from it was the 5v5 change, and fucking everyone's losing their mind. So I wanted to personally, at least on my end, stay silent on things like Twitter and whatever, and instead make a video going over everything kind of in a little bit of hindsight because I am recording this 2 days after. And in general, I just really want to point out the things that I think other people aren't, because I think that's something that I do better than a lot of other people. Is I don't normally take a stance on something in terms of, like, if something is black and white or whatever, or is supposed to be painted as like black and white, is either you love the 5-5 or 5v5 change or you hate it. I tend to look at the gray area and look for the in between and look at all different perspectives, because then if I don't take a stance, I can make fun of everyone. So with that being said, I want to go over all the different points that people have made in terms of the negatives to 5v5 and give a I guess a counter example as to why this is actually better for the game overall, because God fucking knows we need that at this point. And as per usual, this isn't scripted, but I have a very loose outline. I just have a bunch of points written down that I feel like other people make typically, that I'm basically going to read and then give my reaction to. But if I had to give a reference to someone who I'm going to not really judge most of my opinions off of, but someone that I watched yesterday that gave me a lot of insight into the other perspective and actually kind of flipped the way that I stood, was Avril. So shout out to Avril. Please go watch his live stream from, I think it was the 21st. I don't know when this is coming out. So the 21st. So go watch that and you can see his little discussion. Plus he's retweeting a bunch of different opinions on Twitter that he agrees with that are mostly in support of this change. So with that being said, let's get into it. So the very first, and I think the biggest point that people are making, is off tanks being out of the job, because this is a tough one to have a stance on. But this is kind of questioning the more competitive side, which I really wanted to look at objectively and think that the way I see it is, if you have off tanks, or in some situations, and I believe FRD was tweeting out that actually he thinks main tanks are going to be the people that are struggling more, that off tanks being out of the job is, it's such a like condensed and like fixed amount of people that are gonna be quote unquote out of the job, which, although that is a fair point to make, I think a lot of people are gonna be thinking on behalf of the off tanks or on behalf of the main tanks. But the way that I view it as well is that between off tanks and main tanks, if you get told that you are getting the other half of your, because this is not a discrete black and white, off tanks are getting like removed from the game. This is, we only have one tank slot, go wild. And I think what people need to start thinking about is, if you're a competitor, and I say this as a competitor myself, I would put myself in this tank player, in these tank players' shoes, and say, if I was an off tank player, if I was a main tank player, and my role got condensed into one role, not to mention the entirety of the tanks are going to be overhauled to fit the one tank system, you then have to think, holy fuck, this is like a brand new role. Not to mention, this is all meant to make tank more enjoyable. So you're getting more enjoyment out of your role in theory, and with that being said, you're now not reliant on someone else. Because in my opinion, and this is something that I'll get into in a sec, but tank synergy, when it comes to that, in a lot of cases, like, results in the off tank being able to do more work, because the main tank creates space. And hot take, but creating space is fucking boring, and it's really not fun to do if that's the only thing that you can do on your character. Whether that be Ryan, whether that be Monkey, whatever. And like, I guess just to summarize this, because I don't want to make this like too long, but if I'm a tank player, I am going to have a fire lit under my ass because of this, and think that if I really want to still make this job, or if I still want to make this fucking game my job, I have to now work harder, and this gives you a reason to work harder. And this is also coming from a competitor standpoint, that I work my best when I'm learning about something that I'm genuinely interested in. And if you're a tank player and you're met with some adversity of, okay, now you have to learn every tank, in theory, you just have to know the basis of every tank if you want to like be looked at as a like a competitor, as someone who's really gonna be someone to watch in the future. But if you decide to not do that, those are the people that are gonna lose their jobs. The people that are gonna sit and be like, man, I really wish I could just play like my diva Zarya and occasionally Sigma, as opposed to like, if this is what it takes for me to not only keep my job, but to prove how much of a real competitor I am, I'll do whatever it takes. That is my personal opinion on it. So getting into my next one is tank synergy, because again, and I've already hit on this, but I don't think that losing quote unquote tank synergy, because a lot of people talk about this, but like when I look at tank synergy, or what you want to call tank synergy, let's think of a couple examples. So if you look at Zarya with Winston, or Zarya with Ryan, the whole point of the main tank in that comp is to take a bubble and barely get to play the game. Get to play a slight fucking bit of the game. And I don't think you can look at that objectively and be like, yeah, that's probably fun for the main tank. Because people have already been, like, there's the, what is it? The weird fucking custom game thing that someone made of literally Ryan's just getting infinitely CC'd. Not to mention the countless clips of Ryan players in actual games getting permanently CC'd. Like, it's incredible to me that people think that this is a justified argument. And again, I don't want to, I typically tend to play like more of a mutual ground, but with this, I'm trying to give you food for thought. I'm trying to make you like look at the other side of the coin, because I don't know why people, like, literally day one of this getting fucking announced, started a fucking petition to get it reverted, even though they haven't played it, they haven't play tested it, and they don't know anything. All they do is fucking think that they're smarter than the fucking devs, and really are trying to like make themselves feel better by thinking that they're smarter than other people, which is incredible to me. Anyways, didn't mean to go on a tangent. But my third point is that people have said stuff, and this is stuff taken from like YouTube section comments, just a whole bunch of other stuff. People have been talking about this is too much pressure on a single person to perform. But with that being said, why is that a bad thing? Like, let's say you're playing fucking Junkertown, and you have like double shield for tanks, and you have a like I don't even know, like a Bat Brig, or like a Bat Mercy backline, or Ana Mercy actually. So if we're looking at that, and you're playing like double sniper with the rest of that composition, and you're entirely reliant on your Widow to do good, and entirely reliant on someone else to feel good, on like your Hanzo or your Widow to do good, why is that a bad thing? the way I see it, like, that's what makes the game competitive. And now people can't bitch about stupid boosted main tanks or stupid boosted off tanks because, like, they're just queuing and getting boosted. And it's like, instead, they're the focal point. And what that pressure is going to do to players is you're either going to get, like, harnessed and then come out as, like, a diamond, or you're just going to break. And if you break, I mean, that's on you, ultimately. I don't see how that can be bad from a gameplay design perspective if it makes the tank role overall more impactful. Because only having, like, the way that I have said it to other people is that if you have two people in a role, that means one person has leeway to suck ass, in my eyes. But with that being said, like, look at every main support that I've covered, every main support that I've shit talked. They all look fucking terrible when I bring them into the light, but they have the really cool flex supports that are really good at covering up for those flaws, and so are the rest of the team. But with that being said, now it's so weird to me that people think having one tank and one person not do something boring the whole time regardless is now, like, going to be, like, an inherently bad thing. That's incredible to me. Okay, moving on. The complaint that people have that it's not as fun. You are an idiot if you think that this is a change that is not as fun. And the reason I say that is because if you are looking at, and I think it was ZP that had a really good tweet about this. He tweeted out that basically in any game ever, you have people who just inherently are not, like, fond of playing tank. It is statistically the worst role in any single game, and no one likes playing it. It's hard to convince people to play that role because it's hard to sell, hey, so, okay, we have this really cool game idea, and we have, you know, the people that do the damage, the people that heal the people that do the damage, and they sponge for that damage. They don't do too much damage, but they fucking but they really are just a damage sponge. I don't know how you can make that a fun role. The way that I think Avril put it on his stream is that the most fun tanks out right now are stuff like Roadhog and stuff like Zarya. Do you know why? It is because you can carry. You have an impact on the game. And with that, what makes them so different? And what I think needs to be brought up is that these are not tanks. These are fat DPS, which was a very, like, good focal point that Avril brought up. And in general, the concept of a bruiser in terms of games in general, which is basically a beefed up DPS, not to the point where it's like a super tanky but also DPS. It is a, like, if I were to give an example of it, I would probably say something like Doomfist. If I had to look at the best example for a game like fucking Overwatch. But realistically, we don't have that many, like, bruisers. But if you're looking in general at, like, just between, like, Zarya and Hog, they aren't very beefy, but they have a lot of impact. And that's what really is gonna make the game, like, fun for people. And with all of the tanks being overhauled, you then have to think, okay, is this actually going to be the best? Is this really going to, like, give them an opportunity to make all these characters so much fun? And I think it's worth considering, because there's no reason to, at this point, say 5v5 is bad, 5v5 is not going to work, it's not fun, all that shit, because you haven't played it. Shut the fuck up. You can't say this is a dumb decision. You can't say this is a fucking dog shit way to play the game because you haven't played it. You have only watched what everyone has assumed to have been silver-ish gameplay from fucking devs, which is completely, like, fine that that's the gameplay we got, but take it with a grain of salt. And think about the future. Fucking hell, it's crazy to me. And I mean, this also, like, the last point of just saying that it's not as fun also ties into the second point that I brought up, or I guess the fifth point overall, that people are just saying to make tanks more fun. You only make tanks more fun if you make them have impact. And right now, you have half of the lineup for tanks that people are even, like, slightly enjoying playing being off tank. And when it comes to main tank, it's not that people don't enjoy main tanking, because there are some masochists that do not get me wrong, but it's just not as fun comparatively. And you have to understand that. You have to, like, you can't, and what I bring up as well, and why I think the ZP tweet is a good idea, is that, or the ZP tweet was really good, is that, like, no one has made a good solution to, like, to tanks. Tanks it's just a boring thing. It's boring, but it's a necessity. And that's how tank has always been for Overwatch, and that's what they're trying to stray away from. Not entirely to say that they're trying to make the role, like they just want to make it more entertaining, and they want to make it more fluid, and if that's what they say that they're getting out of the 5v5 playtesting, by all means, please fucking trust them. Like, at the end of the day, right now, no matter how much you bitch on Twitter, no matter how many petitions you start, this is happening. And I brought this up in Avril's stream. If you don't start looking towards the future and look at 5v5 as this is 100% happening, you're gonna get left behind. Because the future of this game could rely on 5v5. I've talked to a bunch of casual people that I play with, and they're like, now that I'm, like, thinking about it, the overwhelming, like, thing for Overwatch was how cluttered it was, and how, like, clunky and fucking bright everything was. Like, you couldn't tell what was going on. You've seen the fucking memes on Twitter of, like, send this to a Valorant player to fucking scare them, and it's just a fucking array of, like, 2 sim walls, bongos, fucking gravitic fluxes, everything's going on. Now, what are we gonna do to change that? If you take one character out of the equation, a character that is also in turn not fun statistically, and is the lowest played role, again, statistically, this isn't something you can argue, but people are still trying to make a case for it, and I don't understand it. But that's just me, I guess. Anyways, moving on. Another point I wanted to bring up was throwers, because people have been like, oh my god, imagine if you get 6 in your ranked game, and it's like, who fucking cares? Like, realistically, it's gonna be the same result either way in most cases. Like, again, yes, you have slack for that one tank in like the in the role, in terms of right now you have one tank. If one tank's throwing, you have one that's hopefully not throwing. But, like, when it comes to throwers aren't gonna change, because what the fuck is the, like, difference between getting, like, one tank that's really throwing and, you know, getting, like, a backline that's really not wanting to win, or that's just griefing entirely? Like, regardless, that's something that doesn't need to be a factor, because it's not something you can factor. It's out of the gameplay devs' control. Like, you can never balance a game in mind of, like, do you think people would throw with this? You know, do you really think that this is like gonna be something that's, you know, gonna make people just not want to play the game, and people are gonna grief games? You can't do that, because if you're, and I bring up a really radical example of that's kind of a one-to-one of, man, why would you ever go outside? You could get hit by a car. As soon as you step outside, you could get hit by a car. Why would you go outside? You know, why would you play the game if you could get a thrower? I think it's a one-to-one. And some people can say that that's a radical, like, way of going about it. But the way I see it, that's a one-to-one comparison. So, that being said, people are already saying snipers are going to be overpowered. Because you don't have, like, a D.Va, or you don't have enough utilities to keep them in check. And with that being said, the snipers on the other team are going to have the same resources as you will on your team. So, like, obviously, when it comes to snipers, I think dueling is still going to be the most effective way to do it. Like, Widow duels are still going to be a really big thing. But not to mention, if you're thinking about tanks not being able to contest snipers, what the fuck are you talking about? You have seen nothing. We have to our knowledge, we have a fraction of what is to come for Overwatch 2 in terms of PvP. The information we have is so fucking little that I have no idea how you can be complaining. Because if you're upset about the change now, I feel horrible for you the next time that they come out with something. Because now you're going to be upset with the game fundamentally, and now anything on top of that is just going to be not even food for thought, but it's just going to be like more nails in the coffin. For you, at least. But for everyone else that's going to be more like accepting and more open-minded, we're all going to enjoy the fucking game. And I mean, the world's going to keep turning whether you want it to or not, to be completely honest. So, anyways, and I guess to hit that even more, this kind of stems into my next one of changing fundamentals. Now, this was my major point of, like, and I also brought this up with passives, because you're changing fundamental parts of the game. But again, I want you to be more optimistic. Be optimistic with me for a second. And think, what is the most key thing that has been said throughout the entirety of Overwatch 2, like, through the leaks, through the what we know officially, you know, everything. What have we always heard? Not only that everything that we've seen up to this point is a work in progress and can and possibly will be changed, but when it comes to fundamentals being changed, this is not a direct sequel. This is not a game to make Overwatch, like, this isn't just to shit out a thing to scam more Overwatch people into buying the game a second time. This is a new game. Now, whether you like that new game or not, that's up to question. And that may or may not be justified in the future. That's the only way we'll know. But you can't judge it right now. With fundamentals being changed, I can understand that. That's a scary thing. We all have fucking loved this game for so long. But also, I also bring this up. Do not be afraid for other roles. Because right now, this has also been a point that so many people have been like, I can't believe how many people are going to be losing their like job in Overwatch League. But if you think about it, most of the people bitching are DPS players. Why are you complaining for the other people? That's not to discredit the OWL players that are very upset. In no way, shape, or form am I discrediting that, because that's a very justified thing. But why would you be, like, upset for someone else? That's not to mean don't be empathetic. That's meant to be, because it's sad for me too, seeing people that have actually put a lot of time into this and have started to get stuff like perfected down. But again, my mentality is different. My mentality is, okay, now is my time to show. If you really want to pop off, learn those couple more characters, show people that you can really pop off on those characters. It doesn't matter what you're playing, that you're just a mechanical nutcase, and that you can really stand with literally any other tank, toe to toe. And that will get seen. Especially if the focal point of the next game is on that one person who's like, I really think I have the carry potential. That's going to be better for your ranked experience, better for scrims, better for scouting. I think it's overall a very good thing. Next, people have brought up the removal of role lock if this goes through. Even people that I know who I've talked to. Why? Literally, this entire thing, this whole thing, this has been the entire reason 5v6 or 5v5 is coming out is because we want to make tank a better role. So with that being said, why now give people an opportunity to just not play the role? Do we really want to take that many steps back? And I don't think people know the actual effect that it's gonna have. It really would be a lot more impactful than just thinking that it's gonna be like fine and the same thing. And another point that's been brought up is okay, I'm gonna reach for a second, and I want you to stay with me. That Paladins, I don't give a fuck about Paladins. I don't know about the competitive scene. I don't know shit about it. But Paladins, again, stay with me. I know it's a joke, but Paladins, they've had a meta, and they don't have role lock, and they have been stuck in a 5v5 with, you're not gonna believe this, 3 tanks, 2 supports. Sound familiar? I remember it. Why is this the route we want to go? I miss goats as much as the fucking next guy, but why the fuck would this be the route to go if you want the game to progress? You can't take steps backward if you want the game to move forward, which is I think what a lot of people are getting stuck on. Right now, and it's going to be hard to stomach this because I make content for Overwatch players, but you have to understand the rough reality that we're a joke to other FPS games. We're a joke to even fucking League. Like, people that play League clown us. People that play fucking Call of Duty clown us. People that play whatever the fuck clown us. Because they see our game is not skilled, very messy, very chaotic, and if you have the willingness, take a step back and look at the bigger picture. That's what we are. And something's got to change, or else all the people that have been spamming dead game for 3 years, for the past 3 years, is actually going to start having meaning. Because if they really didn't care about this game, they would have let it die. And this was also a point that I brought up personally, is that the Overwatch devs want the Overwatch 2 to do so well that they're willing to change fundamental things such as how many players are on each team, if it means the game's success ultimately, or if they know that it's better for the game. And that's what I have my utmost respect for. I don't know how you can't respect that, but if you don't, that's on you. Sure. You know, by all means, you have the right to not think that that's the greatest direction to go. But again, it's happening whether you like it or not. And let me tell you, I was gonna make this video yesterday, and in that video, I was gonna say the biggest positive of all this is that it might change. Looking back on it, I'm fucking naive for thinking about that. But now that I have all this information and all the information that I've shared with you, and I'm not even done with my points yet, but like, that's crazy to me. I really think that people need to dive a little bit deeper before making their petitions and being all up in arms. So that's I'm gonna stop getting as preachy and keep going on with my points. So this was something that I brought up that's a point that I already kind of hit on, is that it's gonna feel like a completely different game. Yeah, because it is one. It's, if they are making the game the way that I envision it, in terms of overhauling tanks and adding new characters to every role, adding a whole bunch of new maps, brand new aesthetics, brand new everything. This is going to be a new game with familiar faces. And that's for the better, in my eyes. And people that, I guess leading into my next one, people that were saying the game is fine the way it was. I am almost inclined to believe are the same people that say the game is dead. The game is slowly dying, the game's not fun to play, the game is whatever. But then when that security of this is my game, this is my home, and the fundamentals get changed, they're like, why? Why do you think? After everything that I've said up to this point, why do you think? Do you think they really, like, and I bring up Jane's tweet because I've been told that Jane's tweet was satirical, and if it is, I apologize. But if I'm taking this at face value and hearing that someone is saying that this is for monetary reasons, what the fuck are you on about? In what way is it more beneficial for, like, they've even said it, I don't know how many times, that when Jeff was still there, he was talking about this is not just a cash grab. If we really wanted to, we could have just shit out a sequel and had all of the old Overwatch people buy it. But we wouldn't be growing the community. And that's what they plan to do. And that's what they are doing. And now people are getting upset at that. So please, please bear with me. And fucking hope that they're making the right move. Because ultimately, it's not in our hands. We have no jurisdiction over telling them what is or isn't correct. Please, just trust them. I know it's hard, but just let go and let it happen. Moving on. I mean, same thing with, like, my last 3 points kind of reiterated the same thing, that this is going to kill the game. No. This is going to breathe life into the game. This is going to now, because, okay, stay with me for a second, and hear me when I say, if we release Overwatch 2, if we shit out a sequel, how do you think that'd go over with the like regular people, the really big streamers that haven't really, you know, touched Overwatch in some cases 4 years? And we're on our 5-year anniversary. And that's being generous, saying that it's been like 4 years since some people have touched the game. But if you're looking at it and you see, if you don't like a game, let me backtrack a bit. If you don't like a game and a sequel comes out and it's like, all right, we've basically we have the game completely the same, but there's new maps, new characters, and other than that, gameplay's the same, everything's the same. And I mean, I guess we did a little PvE mode, but you know, pretty much just wait for archives to have that shit. Why would that give the incentive of old players to play the game? Again, I've had a couple conversations with casual people, and when they hear 5v5, that piques their interest. That's not enough to completely flip the game on its head, but now you have old people talking and you have new people talking. And now once this collides and finally conforms, this is gonna be what really can draw people back in. And the more that people that we draw back in means the more excited the dev team's gonna be to work on the game, to give us more content, to give us more updates, and to just be more transparent with us. If we're actually being helpful to them, as opposed to just being like, okay, they made a change to the fundamental game, let's get a petition going. Like, I checked that petition, and it was like, the last time I checked it, 800 signatures. Why? You have seen not even 2 hours worth of gameplay, and you're already saying the entire game is gonna flop. What the fuck are you talking about? It's so tiring to me. Like, I just want people to have faith for once that the dev team is doing something good, because it's not like they've super wronged us before. Yes, for Rollock, they got us Rollock. You know, the only thing that they refuse to do is take steps backwards, which I can respect, because that's the same way I am. But I guess to wrap this up and everything, I mean, the last point that I have was that this is all unnecessary, and if everything that I've brought up to this point has not proved how necessary everything is, I don't know what to tell you, man. So, with that being said, I appreciate the fuck out of you for watching all the way up to this point. I felt really good about that, actually. I think that was a really good rant. But I appreciate the fuck out of like people's opinions and stuff, and if there was a point that I was meaning to hit but maybe didn't think of, that I didn't outline here, please, by all means, comment about it, and I will 100% respond to you. And I ultimately, I want to get a discussion going, because that's what we need right now. We don't need to bandwagon on a petition. We don't need to bandwagon and look at everyone else's opinions on Twitter, because everyone else was speaking from their heart immediately as soon as they saw that news. In terms of OWL players, in terms of everyone, they were giving their point blank opinion of, holy fuck, I might have just lost my job. And now that this has been something that we can sit on and reminisce on, where do we go from here? And that's what I leave you with. So, that being said, appreciate you all. Follow me on Twitter if you want to know whenever I upload. I try to upload every other day. I'm going to be uploading a video soon on how to actually play main support. I know I've said that for like the past 3 videos, but whatever. And yeah, that's it. I will see you when I see you. Later.